Okay, I'm going to look at one other camera in here that just tells a story about how to do more of a macro photography. So this one is in this jumble here, looking directly at this little plant here, a little succulent. And that's, again, a Vray Cosmos. So the shot looks like this. And maybe I could zoom out a little bit. So you can see basically here, the focal length is 90, so it's not very far away from this thing, but it's zoomed way in on it too. So it's like 3 feet away and then zoomed way into it. That's why it's kind of a macro shot, because we're just focusing on a very small area by using zooming. The only other thing is the F number. So F number is 3.7. The f-stop is at 3.7, which gives us just a very, very slim area of focus. And we actually need to change the focus distance to be on the plant. So right in the center of the plant, you can see this plane and this plane is the whole focal distance. If I expand it, then I could get the whole plant in focus. But what I'm trying to do is heavily blur everything around it and only bring just the plant into focus. Okay, so you'll see what kind of results that gives us, and it gives us kind of a macro photography look, because everything else will be so blurred you can't even see what it is. And that creates the effect of really focusing just on this plant. So let's just try to render this real quick. We'll mess with the light settings and all that and see what kind of results we can get. What I'm calling a macro photography shot, this is really just setting the mood or showing the overall feel of the place, you know, just a succulent plant. And it kind of goes with the decor of the place, and it's just like a magazine shoot, right? You might see a little vignette of a macro shot just showing a little item sitting on a table or something, and it just establishes the overall feel of the space. So this is not telling the whole story of the structure, the massing, or anything like that. It's telling us the mood of the place. That's what a shot like this would be for. Let's render. One thing I hope you'll notice right away with a shot like this is that the model has to be impeccable, right? It has to be perfect if we're going to zoom in and focus on it in this way. And in this case, even though this is from Cosmos and very professionally made, it's very good and would hold up under almost any circumstance. But at this level of detail, I think it looks a little funky the way that the plants are shaped. And maybe that just means lower the stem down into the pot a little more or something. But anyway, point is, on a shot like this, your material, like for your wood, has to be spot on, and your model has to be spot on. So I like to do this a lot just to show off my models. If I have like perfect little wrinkles in a cushion or something, this is a great way to showcase it. And I just like doing that. Might not contribute to the overall story of the space, but I like to do it because I spend all that time modeling it, so you want to be able to see it, right? Anyway, let's look at some other effects that we're getting here. So the one thing that's distracting to me is the fact that this blue is here. So this might be a Photoshop thing where we go into that camera raw filter and desaturate that blue, right? Or there's some other things we could do, like up the exposure to blow out some of the background even more. But the problem is this pot is very light as well, so it blows out too. Maybe you could go in and darken that pot and then blow out the background a little bit more. The interesting thing is that the focus is working quite well to help us focus on just the plant, right? So especially like these leaves in here are getting full detail. Some of the other leaves as they come out towards the camera are getting blurred because they're outside of those two planes. And the leaves in back are crisp, and then the background is very blurred, right? So that's the exact effect we're going for. With macro photography, the depth of field is often very, very low. Let's take a look at the light mix and see what kind of things we can do here. Okay, I've turned off everything except for the self-illumination. The environment, let's turn that on. Okay, so that's just blue light, the blue V-Ray sky coming in through the windows. Okay, that's looking good. Maybe you could put it even there, and let's turn this sun up so the sun's super bright. No, I don't like the effect that's getting. What about our daylight source? That's not going to change anything. Perhaps we could turn off the environment entirely and turn up the daylight source. No, that's got to go way higher. That's really just reflecting. That's all it's doing. I think No, that's not working. Cancel that. Okay. The environment at 10 and the V-Ray sun at 10 looks pretty good to me. Maybe we can just go back to 20. It's overly bright. Exposure. Yeah, somewhere right in here. That pot is coming back. White balance, I want warmer. Like this. Look at that grain of the wood in there. That's pretty cool. Okay, light mix. So I think that's probably all the lighting we need here. None of these interior lights are going to be contributing to it much. We can just look at the effects. So there's a pendant here that's up above these plants. It can be turned up more and add a little more highlights into here. That's fine. I don't mind it. Floor lamp is doing a tiny, tiny bit. To add a little more. Don't think it's necessary. Not really helping. Okay, so like I said, oh, that one actually helps quite a bit. Oh, that's the daylight. So that's the reflection of the sky outside showing onto the plants. And it's turned way, way up. And it's working just fine. This is going to take a while to render, but this is giving you the idea where just this small little part is in focus. I can show you what my finished rendering looked like after I post-processed it. Okay, so using the same camera, this is what I got after letting it render for a long time. And probably not the same light mix settings, because this I did completely independently, but you can see it is the same camera and the same focus going on. And I did crop it down to fix the composition and get rid of some of these blue books that were over here and just overexposed the overall scene. So the background is a lot brighter. Ends up being pretty nice. But again, you can really see how you want the model and the texture. Like these, I mean, it would be a fake plant anyway, so it looks a little bit fake plant-like. But I would like to make these materials, they look like they're mostly just diffuse colors, but I would like to add some little texture to them to make them look a little more real, like an actual succulent leaf. Right now they look a little plasticky, right? But when you're zoomed in like this, it's got to be so spot on. So that's where you just go over the top on details if you wanted to render a view like this. Whereas usually that would be a waste of time because you won't notice it. So let's look at some of these other views that I've generated out of here. These were early on previews where I was doing some testing and experimentation. This is the view that we worked on together, right? This is what I came up with. And then a cropped version of it, which I think looks quite nice, actually. I love the reflection of all this brightness out here coming down onto this saucer and onto the laptop keyboard and onto these stools. That looks fantastic. And then look at this over here. Great, great, great. Okay, a chair view. And you can see how well these textures are rendering. Okay, so the composition I like here. The only thing I did was in Photoshop kind of lessen the saturation of the green for behind, basically. But this is, again, just using light mix to get a really nice scene. And again, showcase. This is a very good model. It's got those perfect wrinkles in it. It's a great opportunity to showcase this model. And you can see the succulent is in front and it's creating this weird shape. But it's nice and blurred, so it's not too distracting. And this table is blurred so that all the focus is back here on this chair. Okay, that's one of the chairs we were working on together. Some more of the shots. Okay, this was an interesting one. Changed the floor entirely and just did this composition. What I like about this one is the lens flares. Lens flare really working here using the same techniques. And I like this little splash of light coming in through the window. And the composition is basically just this square being framed in. Okay, so those are some of the shots that we can come up with. You, I hope, are using these techniques to come up with your own shots and just be creative with it and have fun with it. This is awesome. Like I said, like acting like a virtual photographer within a 3D model is one of the funnest things about doing rendering, right? So can't wait to see what you are able to create. I'll create a place in the forums where you can post your own renderings that you come up with for this. And I'd love to see them and give you feedback on them. So take these tips, take these tricks, take these techniques and these workflows, and start creating awesome and interesting photographs of your interior spaces.